Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Ah! Peter the Projectionist. I'm projecting Dr. Moore in TSH 120. If anybody wants to get out of their own little abyss and out into the real world, you are welcome. I encourage this sentiment. Good. Audio's working. Good morning, fancy meat computers. How's everybody doing today? Seems like it's a nice day today. Looking out, you know, patented beginning of the live stream weather report. Looks like a beautiful sunny day out there today. Perfect day for finishing up your fall raking of leaves if your, if your tree has dropped its final drop. Hello from Thode, although I may join you in TSH next time. Yes, indeed. 49. Pretty good. Pretty good. Hello from Mills. Ha ha ha. Mills. You know what a good library is? Because it's kind of tucked out of the way. And it's like a lot less popular because it's like out of the way is Innis, if you've ever been there. How do you turn off the lights? Okay, so on the panel, or on the wall behind the desk with the projection, connections and stuff, there's like a white box, right? It actually has a flip down on it. It's like a white panel built into the wall. It says like energy savings thing and stuff. So if you flip that down, you get the individual light level controls for the 3 light banks in the room. And you have to hold the button up and down, but there you go. Ah, you figured it out. Good. Excellent. Hello from Hedden. Hedden Hall, that one of the residences? Not familiar. But, you know. Then again, is it necessary for me to be familiar with that? So, I was trying to lower the rear lights instead of the front ones. Holy smoke, man. Like, welcome to my world, honestly. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they just labeled which one, like, which bank was the front bank? Wouldn't that be useful? Jeez. So, I think enough people are here for us to sort of get started properly. I imagine there's probably, like, you know, maybe 20 or so people in the actual lecture hall at the moment. When do you think we can go back to in-person? Well, let me just elaborate that particular story. So, at the moment, I'm considering this to be like week 2 of the 2-week stint that I've taken off coming in, precisely 2. So I said that I would be taking 2 weeks to look after things at home and be working from home in the post having a new baby in the house period. Things seem to be going very well in that respect, and I still need to talk to my wife about it. But you know, there is, I would say, a possibility that I might be returning to campus next week. Again, I'll have to talk to her about it, see what she says. So possibly it'll be this week, and then next week we'll be back in class. Possibly. It's her birthday, by the way. So happy birthday to Allie. So that's one thing that we need to talk about. The second thing that we need to talk about is is a slightly less, I guess yeah. Oh, certainly I'll keep you posted on Avenue. I won't just expect you to, like, I won't expect you to know that class is going on. Yeah, when it's time to make the return, I'll post about it before. Yeah, I'll post enough. I'll post it in enough time so that you can plan your week out. Honey, the chat's wishing you happy birthday.
Thank you, chat.
She says thank you, chat. Um. So, um. So we have to talk about something a little bit more serious as well. Unfortunately. Um. So, for those of you who've been sort of keeping on top of the university's news feed, you'll know that there has been some contingency planning that has been taking place with respect to some of the strikes that are either happening or perhaps about to happen. I'm sure at least a couple of people in the class are aware that the Go trains, the Go not Go train, pardon me, the Go bus drivers union is on strike at the moment. So Go bus service to campus is currently suspended. As I understand it, that's still the case. So the university's basic, like, their approach to this problem is to make it your problem, roughly speaking. So the expectation of the university is that you will find alternative means of transportation to come to classes, or you'll hire an Uber or something like that. And if you can't make it for, an assessment of one form or another, they're basically rolling that into the MSAF policy. They'll be granting MSAFs to people who miss things because of the transit strike. So that's important information for you to know if you didn't know that already, and if you are affected by the Go Bus Transit Union strike, such as it is. So that's one strike talked about. Let's talk about the somewhat more pertinent and important, or certainly the most, the more affecting of the two. So the other thing that's going to be happening with a high degree of probability, contrary to what I was supposing earlier in the semester, is that the TAs, the local QP unit in charge of TAs and RAs, so would that be a Type B MSAF? I guess so. I'm not sure. Yeah, the one not limited to once a year. I assume that would be a Type B MSAF. So the union representing TAs and RAs is set. They are in a legal strike position as of the Monday, the 21st of November. So this is strike season. Yeah, really, right? It's like everybody's... I kind of have this theory that, like, nobody was striking during the pandemic because it was the pandemic and all that. And now that, like, the pandemic is no longer a thing as much as it was, carefully choosing my words there, everybody who, like, all of these unions that had this, like, pent-up strike energy that a lid was put on, it's now just all bursting out, and everybody's going on strike at once. Which, thanks, guys. Really, we could really use this right now. But at any rate, So basically, the TAs are possibly going to be going on strike. Um, the thing that was expressed to me by my supervisors is that the strike is seen as being very highly likely to occur. Um, I had almost forgotten how much teachers were striking before the pandemic. Right? They had been striking for like a good solid 4 months of like rotating strikes and work to rule type stuff. Um, I don't know. I think that work to rule is a lifestyle for teachers, but anyway. Um, so basically, the TAs might be like very likely are going to be like gone. Now, in my capacity as I'm kind of caught in the middle of this because as a sessional professor, I'm also a QP member. You may not have known this about me, but I'm not actually full-time staff. I'm part-time staff and represented by the union itself. But I'm also, in my capacity as professor for the course, I'm also a representative of the university, so I'm kind of, both on one side of this and the other. So the university's response to the strike is essentially to have classes anyways. Let me answer a few questions in the chat before we go any further. One of the profs for my course is also unable to come to school due to both Go Transit strike and her children's teachers strike, so the prof has to stay home and take care of the children. Yeah. For how long does the strike go? And if they do strike, do regular classes still resume? Well, I'll get to it. So if the TAs go on strike, there will be no midterm 3. We'll see. And no more tutorials. We'll see. So let me just put out to let me just lay out what the let me lay out what the sort of universities at the administration's approach to this problem will be. All right. So the administration expects classes to continue to run, and the continuation of classes is expected to have the expectation of the higher ups in the administration, shall we say, is that classes will continue with no change in quality or delivery, or like nothing. They want nothing to change, right? Essentially, the university is banking on a large proportion of TAs working for the university despite being on strike. In union talk, this is known as scabbing. It'll get you blacklisted by the union. So, from a sort of realpolitik value-free analysis type perspective, from my personal position, right? I'm teaching 3 courses this semester. I have approximately 650 students under my tutelage at this particular point in time. And I also have 13 TAs. The amount of auxiliary hours I have at my disposal, the number of hours per week I command across all of my courses, if you want to put it that way, is I have 130 hours a week of personnel that that are at my disposal. Given that I can make no assumption about who's going to scab and who isn't, I have to assume that I'm going to have nobody, right? And, frankly, if a TA scabs during the strike, they're going to end up blacklisting themselves. So I'm not sure that it would be in their best interest, although the university would pay them. So getting money is also in their interest. So they have a decision to make. And I've been informed by the department that I'm not permitted to influence the decisions of the TAs one way or the other, with respect to are they going to scab or are they not going to scab. So essentially, I'm gonna the idea that we're going to be able to continue offering this. I'm going to be able to continue to offer this course at the same level that it was being offered previously is farcical. So yeah. Let me just clean up some of the questions in chat. So if the TAs go on strike, there will be no midterm 3. We'll see about midterm 3. If I have no TAs, I have no one to invigilate a test. I can still do the exam in maybe in its current format. I'm probably going to have to quickly scramble and talk to the exams office to see if I can get some external invigilators who are not on strike. That's a conversation I'm going to have quite promptly with people. So the exam definitely is still going to happen. I'm not sure about the test. It might be currently my superior officer is inquiring with his superior officer to see if I'm permitted to drop some things and modify the grade breakdown for my courses. I'm kind of in a special condition. I'm in a special situation because I have so many. Most profs don't teach as many courses as I do. So whether or not there will be a third midterm is up in the air. I will not commit one way or the other at this point. With respect to tutorials, it is... I do not have time in my schedule to teach all 6 tutorial sections, obviously. It is likely that we will revert to pre-recorded tutorials. I think that Mark has a bank of those, and perhaps one of his parting gifts to me would be to allow me permission to use his pre-recorded tutorials, even though technically if he's on strike he doesn't have to give me anything. But tutorials will most likely end up in a pre-recorded format, even if they strike for one day. So depending on that's another good point. Depending on how long the strike lasts, we might be able to resume services. However, if the strike happens, I think you can expect it to last a while, minimally until the exam period. Right? Like if they're on strike on the 21st and the last day of class is like the 7th or 8th, like you can assume that 3-week block at least is going to be strike territory, probably the exam period as well. I'd just like to point out that a few years ago there was a TA strike at York, and the TAs were on strike for a year. So I don't imagine this is going to be over in 3 days. Do you think that even if the tutorials are unable to run, the notebooks can be released? Yes, absolutely. How would tests be proctored with TAs? They can't be. They're working on the exam so they can finish it before the strike. Yes, the exam's pretty much now in place. You'll be having, I can't drop an exam. I can't drop an exam. So, sir, to be certain, I am not going on strike. That is correct. I am not going on strike. My unit, although I am a member of CUPE, CUPE unit 3904, whatever the local unit is, this CUPE unit is divided into 2 subunits, one representing TAs and RAs. The second representing sessional instructors, such as myself. Unit 1 is going on strike. Unit 2 is not going on strike. So I am not going on strike. I'm just expected to do the work of 5 full-time staff members. That's all. Yeah. Sounds a lot like politics. What? Are you telling me that you think that that striking might have something to do with politics? Get out of here with your fake news. How long do I think the strike will last? Again, it's impossible to tell, but I don't, like, if it starts, you can probably expect at least 2 to 3 weeks. At least 2 to 3 weeks. Will the exam dates be moved around if the TAs go on strike? That's possible, because I'm going to have to ask the exam office to invigilate the exam, so they might change when it is. That's just gonna be a thing, unfortunately. By the way, all the Ontario primary and secondary educators are also going on strike. It's really strike season. Yep. What was the longest strike I witnessed? Actually, I think it was the like Ontario teachers before the pandemic. I think that had gone on much longer than most strikes I'd ever seen. So tutorials from last year. Mark, if you wouldn't mind posting that, like in the like Avenue, or even like the Avenue content, that would be lovely. I think I'm not authorized to access the tutorial recordings. Well, there's YouTube, and it's certainly possible for you to watch YouTube videos, I hope. If Test 3 were to get cancelled, do you have an idea where the weight of it would be moved to? My first inclination would be to take the 10% from Test 3 and apply it to Test 1 and 2. I sometimes do run this course with 2 tests, both weighted 15%. This isn't, like, out of the ordinary. Oh, someone's asking about Python. Python init is a constructor, right? Yes. Does that mean that I can put person parameters and it goes into init parameters? Yes, correct. Yeah. If the exam gets moved into the Christmas break, will we be given breaks for the days we missed? Well, no, it would still be within the exam period, right? In theory. Like, they're not going to be pushing exams into, like, the week after Christmas. Not probably. So, yeah. Will you be given breaks for the days you missed? Highly unlikely. Ha ha. Yeah, no. I don't suppose there's already constructed tests that could be made into an assignment. No, we don't have a test 3 constructed yet, but, you know, we still have 2 weeks before the strike, so it's, if, like, I exhausted Mark's faculties over the last couple of days getting the exam in place, so we'll see how it goes. And, you know, if the TAs go on strike, I have nobody to invigilate test 3, right? So, you know, again, I'm not committing one way or the other at this point in time. We're going to have to, play it by ear. Peter, who seems to have a lot of insider knowledge. So the midterm average is 51%. Well, actually, the midterm average was 58%. If you take into account the people who didn't write the test. So, yeah. So yeah, that's the other thing that we could talk about if we had the opportunity. I don't know, did the marks come out for that? Let me just take a look. I don't know if the TA, I think Sarth posted he was talking as if he was going to post the grades for Test 2. Yeah, there it is. View statistics. Yes. So, so basically, it's kind of interesting. That's an interesting split. Um, So normally what we do is a zero corrected average, where like in general it's assumed that you get at least 1 point on the midterm, and therefore anybody who got zero didn't actually write the midterm, so we adjust, like we typically adjust the average. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be the case in this case. Looks like most of the class, like volumetrically, shall we say, it looks like most of the class failed, and that you know, there were some pretty high earners who were pulling the average up. But the exam is in the same format as the midterms, correct? Yes. Yeah, the exam is just like the test, but a little bit longer. Will there be multiple choice in the exam? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So, you know, so it goes, I suppose. So, yeah, with respect, so just some final words on the test, or the test. Some, just a couple of final points with respect to the strike, right? So, what's going to happen if the strike happens physically is that striking TAs are going to block access to campus, right? That's what it means to be running a picket line, right? So it's entirely probable. Like the whole point is not so much to make it impossible to get to the school, but just for it to take much longer to get to the school. They do let people through at sort of a reduced rate of entry, shall we say. So, we'll see how bad that gets. It might be that, like, I've been given instruction that I should be accommodating of people who don't want to make it to campus when all of the TAs are striking. So I don't know if, like, my normal recording of the lecture sessions will be sufficient, or if I should, if I will pull things back online during the strike and do live streams. Again, a lot of stuff is up in the air. You can bloody well expect that the Piazza response times are going to go down. Legally, they can prevent a car from accessing campus for 5 minutes, so be aware that may slow your commute down. Be aware that if they're slowing people down for 5 minutes, then they are, you know, they're like, a lot of people are being slowed down who are, like, that causes a huge backlog, right? Yeah. So if they're letting one car through every 5 minutes, you can imagine how busy MLOT is going to be. How is that legal? It's a strike. It's a strike. The fact that they're letting cars through at all is a concession, right? There are riot and protesting laws in place. Yeah. So, you know, unless you're living on campus, you know, all of you off-campus people, we're going to have a discussion after the strike starts to see whether or not we want to take some alternative motives, or some alternative approaches. How about buses? What, you mean the Go buses? By the way, the Go bus strike does not affect the in-city HSR buses. Yeah, it seems probable to me. Like, if cars can't get on campus, then what about like buses are like in the same boat? You know, buses are also going to get held up. Probably like they would just let you off a few blocks from campus and you can walk on, but yeah, like they can't stop ambulances or fire trucks, right? Are there any underground passages that go from outside campus to inside? Um, yeah, technically there's a tunnel between the psychology building and the hospital. Um, I don't know if they would like. They probably won't be blockading the hospital, but yeah, there is a yeah there's a tunnel between the basement of the psychology building and the hospital parking garage, which is generally open. So yeah, you can't sneak in that way if you don't want to cross the picket line. But yeah, anyway, we should probably do some actual learning. But but yeah, if the strike goes forward, please do not expect me to be able to keep this course up to the level that you have become accustomed, because it's not physically possible. Yeah. And as Mark says, if you're walking, you can just walk past them. They can't harm you, so just push forward politely. Furthermore, like, they're really not after you, you know? Like, they're after the admin, right? Like, the students, they're, like, they have no animus against you as students, right? Can we move the 10% for the to the final if the last test gets canceled? Again, I'll have to think about it, but my inclination is to put it on tests, like to keep the test category at the same percentage it was before. So, anyway. We are basically collateral. Oh, yeah. In fact, if you want to know the God's honest truth, basically all of the leverage that the TAs have, if classes aren't canceled, is you guys, like, the students complaining to the administration about what's happening. Like, that's all the leverage they have, you know? You guys talking to the media, you guys making a stink on social media about it. Like, that is... Like, if you want to help your TAs, then making a stink and, you know, giving the university a black eye over it, you know, that's all the leverage that the TAs have at the moment. What are our chances of passing if the strike happens? I mean, yeah, the same as if there was no strike. That's a good one. That's a good response, Mark. Yeah. So yeah. Basically, it's me and you that the squeeze is gonna be put to me, and that's gonna result in you guys having a far poorer quality of education than you would be having if the TAs were here. So, you know, let's just say that university is quite expensive already, and you're not going to get, like, what you're paying for, basically. But, anyway, let's talk about objects, because, you know, 15 minutes left in class. I don't want the class to be a complete write-off. So, we were talking about string conversion. If you'll notice, with our point object, we were talking about classes. We were talking about the various ways in which you can define methods inside of classes. And we were just beginning to have an introduction to some of the magic methods. So in this case, we have string, right? So if you define a method underscore underscore str underscore underscore, this defines the point class for the string conversion operator. So if we, like before, if you remember what happened before we had this defined, before we defined the string conversion method, we would get this thingy, the memory address at which the object is stored, as the print result, which is probably less useful, not very informative. Doesn't tell us about the actual contents of the object. However, defining the string conversion allows us to print the data inside of the class in some kind of organized way and consistently, and anywhere that string conversion is explicitly or implicitly applied, this guy is going to be called. So here, inside of the print method, one of the things that print does is it performs string conversion implicitly. So so that's why it prints well. Question: is str the same as repr? Well, I'm not sure. Let me take a look. Repr. It seems like it does some extra stuff. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. I found an answer to your question. When a class doesn't implement the string method, which is the one we're talking about, and you pass an instance of that class to string, Python returns the result of repr, which I'd never heard of before now, because I'm, not an expert Python programmer, because internally the string method calls the repr method. Well, so there you go. The main difference between string and repr method is intended audiences. The string method returns a string representation of an object that is human readable, while repr method returns a string representation of an object that is machine readable. So there you go. Nice juicy details. Can I explain again what it does? Sure. So when we print something, right, if we're printing something that isn't already a string, one of the implicit steps that print takes is to perform string conversion on the thing. String has a default thing that it does, right? This is the default. This is the behavior that string defaults to, right? It tells you what the type of the object is, and it gives you the address, and it puts that in a string. What overloading the string method does is it allows you to define in a customized manner what printing the object actually means. In this case, I'm adding braces and a comma to make it look like your standard mathematical coordinates for like a vector of 2 elements. Like so. So that's what it does, right? So it turns out that you can do this with more things than just string conversion as well. As was alluded to by one of your colleagues, pardon me, So it's like toString in Java/C++. Yes, it is very much like toString in Java/C++. One might even say it is exactly like toString. So is this important for returning as well as printing? Well, returning what, right? It's definitely important for printing. I don't know what you mean by important for returning. So there are actually a large number of these types of methods, which are called either magic methods or dunder methods, depending on who you're talking to. Here's a list of them. All right. So you'll notice some interesting things like, what does Boolean conversion mean? What does add mean, which is mapped to the plus sign operator? What does, power mean? What does negation mean, right? So let's examine another let's take a look at another example. What do you think equality comparison looks like with respect to this stuff, these classes? We know that A and B are different, like they have different coordinates, right? We can even print A, print B, is A equal to B? Let's see, so to speak. So A and B are both different and they come out false. So they're not evaluating to the same thing, so this is good. What if we had C, which is another point, which happens to be the same coordinates as A? C. There we go. So you can see that while 4 and 7 are the values of the x and y coordinates respectively in both cases, evaluating A and B, or evaluating A and C, still results in a false being returned. So here's the question. What the heck is going on? Well, let's make another one. D. Let's set that equal to A. Let's test this to see if it works. Bing, bang, boom. So equality comparison is giving the expected results if we use assignment to set D equal to A. So similarly to lists, objects are subject to aliasing. So D is an alias of A. If we were to take D, right, print the ID, print the memory address at which A and D are being stored, you'll see that they're the same. Bing, bang, 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 boom. If we examine point C and its memory address, you can see they're stored at different memory addresses. Therefore, what equality is doing by default is it is comparing the memory addresses of objects rather than getting into their content. So essentially, the default behavior of equality comparison on objects is a test to see if one is an alias of another. Now, this might be useful. There are, instances in which you can imagine that being useful. However, what our, normal intuitive sense of what equality should mean on these points is that 2 points should be at the same coordinate. So we can tell Python that that's what we want by adding another dunder method. So what we want is for both self and others' x coordinate to be the same, and for their y coordinates to be the same as well. So self dot x is equal to other dot x, and self dot y is equal to other dot y. Now, if we try this again, you'll see that oh, there we go. Despite being stored at different memory addresses, A and C are now equating to true because they have the same coordinates. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if you're following that. How does it know EQ? It's built in. The definition of EQ is provided as prelude material by Python. So this is one of a preset number of methods which map functionality to existing operators. Like you can do the same thing with the plus sign. Is this also what equality does with normal variables? No. That's the difference. So with normal variables, like a variable isn't a reference to a number, right? So if I have x equals 3, y equals 3, right? If I print ID, if I just, copy this in hex ID x, y, there we go, is x equal to y. Bing, bang, boom. There you go. Oh, that's interesting. It's stating that they are being stored at the same address. But that can't possibly be the case, because I can assign them different numbers. And now they're different numbers. I don't know. There's something screwy going on there. I don't know what's going on there. I'm going to leave that question, and I'm just going to walk away. So EQ just stands for equality. It maps to this guy right here. Wait, so with EQ, you're setting them equal to the same memory address? No. No, I'm not setting them equal to the same memory address. This line sets D to the same memory address as A. No, this doesn't set anything. It just tests to see if two things have the desired property, right? So this evaluates to see if x and y exist at the same, like if the x and the y fields of the two classes are the same, using the normal definition of equality, which is defined for integers because these are integers, or, it's overloaded because this is Python and typing doesn't matter. But yeah, no, this doesn't set anything. It's just testing to see if two things are the same or not for some definition of the same. This is a definition of the same. The default one is it checks the memory addresses. There you go. Is this a pointer, technically speaking? Yes, this is like a roundabout way of doing pointers. Yeah. Can you tell us what built-in strEQ type things we have to know for future study? There are basically a bunch of them in the assignment, and, if you know string and you know equality, that's good. Like, know what add does, If you mutate D, does A also get mutated, or is it considered a separate object? It also will mutate, for sure. So, for example, D.x is equal to 10, or 19, sure. Let me just blow this out and actually print the coordinates. And also print A, print D, A is equal to D. There we go. Yeah, see? Both A and D now have 19 as their x value. If they are in the assignments, it is quite impossible to figure out when I don't even know what it is. Yes, it's not impossible to figure it out. You just have to read the documentation, my friend. You just have to read the documentation. You need to develop the ability, because you're a university student, you need to develop the ability to go look things up, read descriptions of things, learn from those descriptions, and implement, things based on those descriptions without needing someone to tell you what to do. That is a essential life skill, and that is one of the skills that university is supposed to teach you. So, no, it's not impossible to figure things out on your own, especially when the documentation is available. I would recommend you take a look at python.org. And you search things like, EQ. Oh, this isn't actually the documentation. Docs? Docs? Yeah, okay. Well, Google is your friend anyway. They even have non-English docs. There you go. Python documentation in every language you could possibly imagine, except for the ones they don't have. I mean, come on, if they've got Esperanto, they've probably got everything. But according to the doc, read the doc. Yep. Yep. I'm not interested in learned helplessness. You're a university student. You should be able to figure things out. That's the position of this institution. So, all right, I'm going to log off here. Stay frosty, my friends. We'll figure things out.